My name's Katie Dolmet, and this is my presentation on the body and social media. In 2009, the Pew Research Center's Internet and American Life project found that 4% of cell phone owning teens aged 12 to 17 have sent sexually suggestive nude or nearly nude images of themselves to someone else via text messaging. 15% of cell owning teens say that they have received sexually suggestive nude or nearly nude images of someone else they know via text messaging on their cell phone, and 30% have received a nude or nearly nude image on their phone. So this is indicative that teenagers are using their cell phones as a means to express themselves sexually to their peers. This is obviously a big concern for not only parents, but policymakers and lawmakers. So in Canada, there aren't actually any laws that specifically deal with whether or not sexting is considered criminal or anything like that, but there are some laws that have been used in certain cases regarding sexting and sharing of private text messages. So, for example, it's against the law in Canada to send pictures of anyone who is or appears to be under 18, including yourself. And that, according to the Canadian Criminal Code, is considered child pornography. It is also illegal to store those images on a phone or other device. However, in 2001, the Supreme Court of Canada decided that young people have a right to send these types of images of themselves as long as it is confidential and consensual. However, in the United States, many states consider receiving and sending sexts to be against the law. For example, as you can see on this chart, states such as Florida consider people under 18 sending as well as receiving these types of text messages to be a felony. As for actual cases where people have been charged, in North Carolina, a 17-year-old boy was charged with 5 counts of second and third degree sexual exploitation for sending and receiving text messages from his girlfriend when they were both 16. And it was understood that they were the only people that received these messages. No one was sharing any explicit images to anybody else. This was just mutually consensual sexting between two minors that was considered a crime. When I was doing research on this, I found a lot of suggestions for teenage girls in order to protect themselves from sexual harassment or sexual exploitation. These include tips such as never sharing, sending, posting, or forwarding sexual images of video of anyone, including yourself. Don't take nude or suggestive photos of yourself or anyone else. If you do and you keep them on your phone or computer, you could be charged with possession. And then there were also tips for parents, basically telling them to make sure that their kids stop immediately sending nude photos of themselves to other people. So in summary, it is generally thought that sexting is considered bad. Girls should avoid being the victim by not engaging in this type of conversation. And many states consider both sending and receiving sexual text, pictures, or videos as a criminal offense. Now, these ideas are based on outdated notions of gender and accountability. So perhaps instead of punishing victims and, consensual partners criminally, we should be teaching children safe sexting rather than abstinence. And rather than blaming a victim of sexual harassment due to sexting an image of herself, emphasize the criminality of sharing that photo. Amy Hasanoff from our reading argues that since all forms of explicit teen sexting are illegal, discussions of sexting often do not distinguish between adolescents' uses of mobile media for sexual harassment and their consensual, intimate sexual uses of these technologies, particularly in mass media and legal contexts. So rather than seeing this as a form of expression, most policymakers just automatically criminalize the act of sexting and think that it shouldn't be done at all. Girls' online media production and forms of digital authorship are seen as dangerous and irresponsible if they merely self-identify as young and female. So basically, young girls are automatically assumed to be victims if they identify themselves as young and female. And expanding the definition of media production to include sexting highlights the importance of privacy and consent. So basically, we should be focusing on making sure that we protect everybody in regards to privacy, and rather than punish the victims, make sure that the people sharing photos and videos are brought to justice rather than blaming the victim. Hasanoff also argues that sexting can be a positive thing for different groups of people. For example, queer teens and other marginalized youth. They find refuge from some of the stigmas and restrictions they experience at home and school. It also helps girls find new ways to express their sexual needs and desires, and even rewrite some of the gender norms that ask girls to be passive. And the American Psychological Association report on the sexualization of girls states that by becoming cultural producers rather than just consumers of media, girls can resist sexualization because it enables them to be more effective cultural critics. Now, the biggest point from this reading is sexters as digital media authors is the key to responding more effectively to abusive sexting, because it brings to light the typically obscure distinction between consensual and non-consensual sexting. So the discussion questions I came up with are: should mutual consensual sexting between minors be criminal, and if so, at what age should it become legal? Do teenagers surrender their privacy rights when sexting or sharing images of themselves to a single person? And in what way should policymakers look at the act of sexting in order to protect the rights of teenagers, as well as punish the unwanted sharing of explicit material?